right. Welcome to EETF number 50. Half a century here. Woo! yes, why not? Thank you to everyone who's been here for the entire ride. I hope it's been worth it, hopefully. My name is Patrick. Glad to have you guys on board. And with me tonight, I have first back on the show, Nick Bamback. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Congratulations on number 50.
Oh, thanks. We also have back again, Woody Meacham. How are you, sir?
Good, Patrick. Thank you again for having us.
Oh, it's the least I could do. I enjoy talking movies and shooting the shit with you guys. It's fun. Okay, and we also have back on the show, Mike Drew. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, this is a regular What We Watched deal. So we can start with TV, as always. And we can start with Nick. What do you have for us on TV?
Sure. So I have two shows.
I thought you were going to say, shit, I haven't watched anything.
For the listeners at home, his eyes bugged out when he was like, Nick. And Nick's like, what? Me?
Yeah.
The first show I watched was Poker Face, which is on Peacock. Has anyone watched that show?
Nope.
Yep, I saw the whole thing.
It was great. It's not serialized, but I thought it was really clever. It was well written. One of my favorite watches of the past year, because I love mystery types of shows, but also ones that are like black comedy. So I really enjoyed that show. And I think Woody said he watched it.
Yep. The thing I liked about it too is just they got some good guest stars on it as well. So like, that was the nice thing is some people who you haven't seen in a while, like Ellen Barkin plays a like kind of retired Florida actress. And I don't know, it just was kind of cool to see her because I didn't really watch Motorcycle or the Animal Farm, or no, that's not the name of it. She was on an FX show in the past few years, but it was just kind of cool to see some of these people that I hadn't seen in a while.
Judith Light was on there, and that was, I think, the best episode, the one with the nursing home. That was a really, really good one.
Yeah. And the Nick Nolte one was really good, where he plays the miniatures artist and stuff like that for movie props.
The little Rattle Howley, I think I pronounced his name right, from Get Out, he was excellent. The one that takes place in Texas with the barbecue, that was also a really good one.
Oh, right. Yep.
I thought it was overall really terrific. Now, another show that I watched I really didn't like that I saw recently was The Patient. That was with Steve Carell, and that was on FX. Have people seen that?
I only heard of it.
Yeah, I heard similar things. I heard it wasn't as good, so I didn't watch it.
I watched it only because my TV club that I host every other month, they chose that recently. So I just finished it. And it's good because the episodes are only like 20 minutes most of the time. And then some are like 30 minutes and 45. But it's a breeze. But it's one of those shows where I'm not spoiling anything because it's literally like happens in the first 10 minutes. Basically, Carell plays like this psychiatrist who has a patient who basically holds him captive takes him hostage. And then the deal is that he helps cure the patient of their sickness, so to speak, and getting through their problems. And it's a weird show because you feel like this could have easily been an 1.5 to 2 hour movie. And they somehow made this 3 to 4 hours. And it just felt so unnecessarily long in that regard for what the payoff is. I don't know. I'm shocked that we picked it.
It's one of the brothers, the Gleason brothers, right? Plays the guy who holds him up.
It's Brandon Gleason's son.
Well, no, but there's the 3 brothers that are all acting now.
Mm-hmm.
So Donald, I think. I don't know. It's the guy who was in Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in this show. He's like the patient. He's excellent. And so is Steve Carell. Like, they're both really good performances. They're good actors, but it's not enough to carry this for 10 episodes over 4 hours. It's like, no.
Well, great. I won't waste my time on it. Thank you.
Oh, one more show really quick, because we did this recently too, and I think it is worth kind of exploring if you haven't seen it. It's called Welcome to Chippendales, which is also an FX show that was on Hulu. Have people seen that?
No, that's that's Kumail Nanjiani, right?
And it's basically the backstory of how Chippendales got started. And if you're looking for like the half-naked men, it's really not there. They're like in the background, sort of. It's all about the business aspect. And Murray Bartlett, who was on The White Lotus and Lookin', he's on this show, and he plays the guy who kind of not co-founds the business, but he's definitely like the guy who helps get it to making money and making it a success. Really interesting series. I would recommend it. A little on the dark side in terms like visually, so like you might need like a pot of coffee sometimes with some episodes, but it was pretty good for what it was.
So Nick, did you see Minx with Jake Johnson? Mike, you saw it?
That's my favorite show of last year.
Yeah, I was just wondering if if the Welcome to Chippendales had a similar feel to that, because I feel like they were in the same time.
Is that the guy who's in New Girl?
Yeah.
Yes.
And where they start.
Oh, I wanted to see that.
Yeah, where they start basically the woman's Playgirl, basically. They start Playgirl magazines, kind of, sort of.
I was going to talk about it later. Season 2 just got announced, and it's on in July on Stars.
Yeah, because it was on HBO, and then they like canceled it, or it was picked up by Stars, something like that, right?
Yeah, they canceled it and it got picked up. Anyway, sorry to go off of that. I always like to try to describe a show by another show of going, because then if you like it, you can go, well, it feels like X, and it can help get you into it or not.
Yeah, it's definitely more like a crime series. Like the tone is a little off sometimes, and then I would have to look at my review that I wrote for it. I just thought that some of the episodes, like it definitely didn't need to be 8 episodes.
Right. And again, kind of basing off what we were talking about pre-show. Yes, we do actually talk pre-show, people. It probably doesn't sound like we prepped. But with the writer's strike that's going on right now in the US, that's one of the issues, is that they're only creating like 8 and 10 episode series, whereas historically a writer on a network series was writing, 24 episodes a year, or 40 episodes. So let's just say 30 episodes a year. Well, you could live off of that. But now if you're only on like 8 or 10 episode gigs, you then, you get fired after that gig and you have to go find another job. And so that's a big thing with the writer's strike that's going on with that.
That's absolutely true. And it's also actors too, that it's like there's not a lot of stability because of the infrastructures and the way that TV shows are going. Like Succession's a perfect example. I love that show, but it's only going for 4 years. And so is Barry. I think Barry's going to be 3 or 4 years, and Ted Lasso. And these are like really big hit shows. And it's like they're putting kind of the plug on a lot of these works that you could easily see them going double the length. Like if it was like 10 or 15 years ago, they would have, like The Sopranos or 6 Feet Under or, Sex and the City, but they're going much shorter though now, it seems.
It's true.
So.
Okay, so Nick, do you have any other TV shows?
No, I'm shocked I had 3 shows, quite honestly.
Oh, that's all right.
The movie section, he's got 47 movies.
Something listeners should know is like TV, I'm very picky on. I mean, unless my TV club does it, it's like I have the shows that I usually watch that are episodic, but I'm more of a movie person. So like I'm always shocked when I have TV. When I come on here, I'm like, oh yeah, I did watch TV.
That's all right. So we can move to Woody. What do you have for us on TV?
All right. So I brought 5 TV shows this time. So the 2 I'm going to start with are actually series that wrapped up, just finished their runs. So the first one is Picard. So I just finished season 3. I kind of labored my way through the first 2 seasons. I thought it was fine. It would do some fan service stuff, and like Brett Spiner was in the second series, but he wasn't playing Data. He was playing another character and that type of stuff. But I'm like, sometimes I'm a completist per our comments from last episode or 2 episodes ago. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to watch it because everybody was hyping it up. They were like, the final season is great. I'm like, all right, cool. So I got into it. It is all fan service. It is the next generation. Almost the entire cast shows up and is in this show. It's got Gates McFadden, Jonathan Frakes, LeVar Burton, Brett Spiner. Oh,
Michael Dorn, I think.
Michael Dorn, yes. I was going to call him Michael Worf, and I knew that wasn't right. But they would pepper in like little cameos of people that were just fantastic. Somebody said, well, what about Q? Was Q in it? He was actually in series 2. So they wrapped up his storyline in series 2. They said, well, Wesley Crusher. Well, Wesley Crusher was actually at the end, the finale of series 2. So this one was all about them getting everybody back together. They get them They find a way of getting them on the Enterprise D, the ship that was on the Next Generation, all that type of stuff. To send off a show, it's one of the best final series I've seen on a show that was totally just kissing the ass of its fans. And so it's one of those, if you haven't seen it, if you were a fan, you've probably seen it by now. But if you were just a Star Trek Next Generation fan, just watch the final series. You don't have to watch the first two. They don't really apply. There's one character you'll go, who is that? Just get over it. Let it go. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot, but like Jerry Ryan, who was 7 of 9, the Borg, she's in all three of the series, I believe. But that one was just fantastic. I can't recommend that enough. That's on Paramount down here in the States. So I don't know what it would be up in Canada, but Paramount down here. All right, then the next one is a show I've really, really liked for a number of years, but I believe it only had 4 seasons. And that is the show Titans. I kind of wish that Mutford was here because he and I are the comic book nerds of this group, I feel like. But it's based on the Teen Titans, but they're grown up and that type of thing. And they've gone through this final season was based upon a storyline called Brother Blood, who is just one of the bad guys in the DC universe. And it's a team that's Nightwing, who was Robin, Starfire, who's an alien, Raven, who is the daughter of a demon, Beast Boy, who can change into animals. And then they've had other people cycle in and out of it. Oh, and then Superboy, Connor Kent, who's the son of Lex Luthor and Clark Kent. So he's been bred together. They didn't actually have sex and make him, but he was made in a laboratory.
Jesus.
But again, it wasn't as strong, but it made it out. So I really liked it as a final season. Then bouncing to some new shows, a new one that has really surprised me is The Muppets Mayhem.
Sorry, just wanted to say Picard is on Crave in Canada, and on regular TV, it's on CTV. So yeah, for our Canadian listeners.
Got it.
Interesting.
Yeah, Titans, I forgot to mention, is HBO Max down here, or Max now. Yeah, so sorry, Muppets Mayhem, which is about Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem from the old Muppet Show. About them, the gist of the story is the record label that they belong to, they never made the record that they owed them back in the 70s. And so this woman who is kind of the assistant to the Muppet who owns the record company, it's her big break is to get them an album, is to make the album with the Electric Mayhem, but they're just calling them the Mayhem in this. And first of all, I cry in almost every episode. It's crazy how touching the show is. I don't know if it's just reverting back to when I was a kid or what, but it is such an emotional show with a bunch of puppets running around. But they have live action people in it as well. But I mean, guest stars that they have show up to this thing because supposedly the Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem know everybody. And that's the whole point, is like people just show up. And I mean, they're and rando people too. I don't want to ruin it for you, but there's like major stars in this thing. And the music's all really good. Disney obviously has all of the money. Like the one I watched last night, they sang a Beatles song. And so, if they can, I mean, granted, they're paying Michael Jackson's estate, but the music's really good. The storyline's really good. The main actress in it, I haven't really seen her in anything, but they have like the groupie who has been following the Mayhem around is played by Tia and Tamara Mowry's brother, who was on The Smart Guy back in the day. If any of you guys remember that, I'm kind of looking at Nick more than anybody on this one, but
is his sister?
Well, Sister was their show, but I'm saying their brother had a show called The Smart Guy.
My mom still watches Sister. She loves that show. But yeah, I know the show you're talking about, the one that the brother was on.
Okay. Yep. And then it's got one of the guys from Workaholics is another one of the main human characters in it. But again, I would recommend that. I actually slowed down watching it because I was watching it too fast. I was like, I'm only watching one episode tonight kind of thing.
Are they like shorter episodes, like 28 minutes or a half hour?
Yeah, they're half-hour shows. And so because there's no commercials, it's a good half-hour show. It's great. That's on Disney. I kind of said that earlier. Next one I've got is a show on Apple Plus or Apple TV, whatever we're calling it now. It's called Silo.
Yep, on my list.
Have you guys seen that one?
Yep.
Okay, good. Just to include you guys. And so for those people who don't know, it's about a culture. I don't know what we would call them, but it's basically like a post-apocalyptic, somebody built this several 1,000-mile, it feels like 100-mile deep self-sustaining silo that people live in, and there is a controversy around it that it opens up, and the majority of the show is flashbacks to what happened that lead up to what actually happens at the end of the first episode. Stars Rashida Jones, Michael Olololio, I can never say his name right, and then Rebecca Ferguson from the Mission Impossible movies and The Greatest Showman. And then it took me a long time to figure out that Will Patton, who was in Remember the Titans, plays like the deputy. So there's a bunch of like people there where it's a really good show of who is that person? Oh, that's who that person is. But it's actually kind of a mystery crime drama that happens within this thing. So I'm 3 episodes into that and I really like it.
Isn't that an A24 show? Kind of like Beef is?
I don't know. Yeah, I started Beef, but I didn't.
It's on Apple TV. I mean, I don't remember seeing the A24 logo anywhere.
I think so, because the only reason why, because they made a really big deal about, because of the Oscars this year, but also like A24 has been on the rise for the last decade. Let me see. Yeah, it is. It is an A24 show.
Okay. I like Silo too.
Good. Yeah, I'm liking it as well. So I'd recommend it to anybody. And since you brought up A24, I always like to throw this little bit of trivia out. Do you know who started A24?
John Mutford.
It's someone kind of famous from what I remember.
It's Megan Ellison, who's the daughter of Larry Ellison from the Oracle Corporation.
Okay.
Oh.
She was the producer, one of the producers on Iron Man 2, which is why you see Larry Ellison in Iron Man 2, where she basically asked her dad to be in the movie because they force him into. But anyways, to call it back, that's what I always, so that's the whole thing about A24 is you've got one of the 10 richest men in the world, basically I don't want to say gave his daughter, but helped his daughter start a movie production, but they're doing some of the best work. So it's kind of interesting when I was like, when you're applying wealth in a positive way, it's kind of a neat little thing behind that.
Yeah, that's true. Usually when you see A24 at the beginning, it's going to be solid material.
Exactly. All right. So then the last show I've got, it's called Unicorn Warriors Eternal. And I'm looking at your faces. Do you know the show? It's on Adult Swim, and it's the new show by Gendy Tartakovsky.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying his name right. The guy behind Primal,
Clone Wars,
Dexter's Laboratory. Yes, exactly. Clone Wars.
Okay, so
it's his new show.
You have my attention.
Yep, I figured I'd get you with it. That's why I had to fish a little bit.
Nice.
But it's a story about, it's really hard to describe, but so here's how I go. It's a team of 4 eternal spirits that are constantly resurrected to fight a demon. So it's very much anime-y in approach, and it's very violent because, of course, so was Primal, if anybody watched Primal. But the amount of story that Gendy is able to communicate with just visuals is so cool. There's very little dialogue in the show. There is, so not like Primal that had 0 dialogue, but this has very little dialogue and so much. It's like you don't want to be on your phone. You actually want to stop and pay attention to what's going on with it. And a similar thing to, like I said about Muppets Mayhem, is I had to slow down and go, just watch this one, because this whole binge culture now, sometimes I want to wait and bring something in. And so that one, because I had about 4 or 5 of them recorded. And then finally I'm like, oh, right, this is on every week. I don't have to watch them all. I can actually look forward to it. And so I think it's out on Thursdays. So I'm kind of like, cool, when we're done recording tonight, I'm going to go watch tonight's episode.
And which platform is it on?
It's Adult Swim. So Cartoon Network, Adult Swim.
Okay.
If you're into that type of stuff, check it out. I think it's I don't want to say it's fun, but it's good.
All right.
That's what I've got for TV shows.
Thank you, Woody. Mike, what do you have for us?
All right. So my first show was one I think I mentioned that I was about to start in the last episode where we chatted about this, called Stonehouse. It's on here in Canada on BritBox. I believe it's an ITV show from the UK. It's loosely based, it's one of those based on real events, the story of the UK minister John Stonehouse in the 70s, who, according to the show, was tapped to be leader of the Labour Party and therefore hopefully prime minister. I think that was the goal. And things happen. I won't give any spoilers away, but he ends up disappearing. And it's not a spoiler to tell you that he actually, they find him in Australia because part of the story is about him coming back. So Matthew McFadden from your show there, Nick.
Succession.
Yeah. Patrick and I know him from MI5.
Yes.
Also known as Spooks. It's okay. It's not great. I'm not here to recommend it. If you're a diehard British drama person, then, knock yourself out. Fill your boots, as the Brits would say. But yeah, didn't do anything for me. And his real life wife, Keely Hawes, is in it, who I think is fantastic. And she's good in it, but I didn't care for it. And, it's one of those definite 6 out of 10s. It was fine. I don't feel like I, wasted my time watching it, but I also don't plan on recommending it to anybody. So I'm here to say, be advised. So my next show is kind of an interesting choice, even though, so it's a Netflix show called Wellmania. It's comedy, kind of dramedy, I would say is probably a better fit for it. Celeste Barber is an Australian comedian. It's actually produced by a guy named Benjamin Law, who did a great show about 5 or 6 years ago based on his family called The Family Law. That's worth going out and searching. It's like a younger version of him growing up, and it's brilliant. This show, Celeste Barber plays this food critic who's living the fast life in New York. She has to come back to Australia for her brother's wedding. Her passport gets stolen, her green card gets stolen. She can't make it back. She's got this big new television reality show gig supposed to be happening. It's okay. Again, not great. I think it probably could have been. I find her character kind of unlikable. I don't know. If I was going to recommend an Australian comedy, I would recommend Colin from Accounts, like I did a couple episodes back, which is up on here in Canada on City TV, which you can watch for free on the app. So it's okay. Again, 6 out of 10. Now, Patrick, on your recommendation, I watched The Night Agent.
Mm-hmm.
Really liked that. Very, easy to watch, not treading any new ground, but I really liked it. I think every episode left me satisfied, and to the point where some of the cliffhangers, I wanted to watch the next episode immediately. So I always figure that's a good thing. Like you said, I wasn't familiar with any of the actors in it, but clearly shot in Vancouver because
okay. Okay.
they drove by a couple Tim Hortons. And at one point, they're trying to figure out where this, I don't want to give the plot away, but they're trying to do some detective work. They're walking through the city and a Canada Post truck drove by.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of Reacher a little bit, which is on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
That kind of he's almost turns into a rogue agent, not a rogue agent, but definitely has to go on the outside, right, of the rules. And then he ends up with a partner who's helping him out. So very similar. I think if you liked Reacher, you'll like this. If you like Night Agent, you'd like Reacher. And speaking of Reacher, they actually just filmed some of it in my hometown here in Oshawa. So for the upcoming season, so I can pinpoint that if you're interested at some point when I see it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the next one would be, and I won't talk about it because we mention it every episode, but Ted Lasso. It's coming to a close. Patrick, if you don't watch this, honestly, you're missing out.
Yeah. What's wrong with you, man?
I know you're not a big Sudeikis fan. I get it.
Yeah.
But he's really not the main character.
Okay.
I would say don't let that stop you from watching Ted Lasso.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm not familiar with his other stuff. I remember seeing him on Saturday Night Live and that, but I don't know enough of his previous work to say for it to bother me or agree with me either way. But his Ted Lasso is a good character, and I know the show is his namesake. But honestly, the other characters are equally as important. There's a couple like Rebecca, the boss of the team, and the way that they intertwine the stories of everybody, nobody feels more important than Ted, I would say, almost, and nobody feels less important. It's brilliantly done. The first season, I've actually started watching it again while I'm doing dishes and stuff like that. And you know what? Like, I love the first season, but honestly, the second season is where it hits its stride. And the third season is pretty close to that. So, yeah, I still love it. I think we're 2 episodes still to go. And I'm kind of dreading it, to be honest, the end of it, because I like it so much. It's like losing a friend when you have a really good show that you want to keep going. And
Right.
and then this is a bit of a curveball, but for Patrick and Woody and I and Nick, I know you like to travel too. I found this travel guy on YouTube called Michael Downey, and his YouTube channel is called Downey Live. But actually, there's a TV station in BC, in British Columbia. He's actually from Vancouver. And he did a whole series late last year called Downey Live Travels America by Train. I'm not a train guy. Trains are fine. I know people go nuts for them, just like plane spotters go nuts for planes. But this show, he's kind of infectious. Like he's just lighthearted. He's really likable. And it's so cool. Like the scenery is great. And he brings up some really interesting points. And it's really cool. He starts in this series, he starts at the very southmost train station in America, which is called Brightline. It's in Florida. And he takes it, and I think it's 10 trains through the mainland. And he takes it to the furthest northern American train station. Obviously not like in succession, but not together because they don't all link up, to which is in Alaska. And it's really well done. I really enjoyed it. Each episode's about 20 minutes long. Really worth it. He's actually done other ones too. We've watched him on some other things. He has a British one that came out afterwards, which we're going to watch. He does canals. He travels through the UK on boats and in the canal system. So I think that's next on our list. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, you know, being travelers, I find it really interesting. And they're really well edited. And like I said, they're actually on TV in BC on this station that has helped him with this. But yeah, it's great. And if you're a traveler, I'd recommend it.
I just subscribed to his channel.
There you go.
Nice. Trains in North America suck, though.
Yeah, listen, he's not, you know, but it's neat to see. But to be honest, it's more about him seeing
Mr. Killjoy.
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh, no, listen. Well, he'll tell you that and it's funny because in some of the episodes, he has other people join him, right? Like his dad joins him, and his dad's joined him on other series as well. It's great. They're actually really, really sweet together.
His dad's probably a jerk.
Yeah, probably. Killjoys.
No, I'm just being
Killjoys.
Patrick. I'm trying to be Patrick.
He probably likes The Mandalorian too. You never
You
know.
don't want that. You don't want to be me. It sucks.
I'm staying quiet. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, and I agree with you. But Patrick, like, he's the first to, you know, tell you that Amtrak's not great. But it's just, I think just the whole aspect of the travel and the scenery and, you know, the people he meets and stuff is pretty, I like it. And then it's lighthearted and it's, you know, I'm looking for 20 minutes and this fits the bill. So.
Nice. Is that it for TV for you?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. For me, I mean, honestly, I don't have much regarding TV. I've been watching Silo. Woody beat me to the punch. Also, just a little tidbit of info I ran into a few days ago. I learned, and I didn't look into it in detail, so I don't know if that's actually true, but apparently the series Obi-Wan Kenobi, apparently it was supposed to be noir detective style. And then some executive probably stepped in and then we got like this damsel in distress horse shit that we all been subjected to, including the worst foot chase in TV history, if you guys remember. I'm still not over that. Fucking hell.
Are you talking about the forest one or are you talking about the inside one?
I only watched the first episode, so probably the forest one.
Oh, so it was the forest one. Okay. No, there's other shittier chases in it. Yeah.
Holy fuck. Okay, I'm so glad I bailed after one episode. Jesus. Okay, don't let me start on the Star Wars crap again, please.
I think we got till midnight, right?
Yeah.
You brought it up, Patrick.
No, I know. My fault. Jesus, I'm glad I don't have to deal with this mess.
It's like me watching the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
I'm just glad I don't have to deal with it.
Fair. Quite fair. Okay, so yeah, that was it. Oh, Mike, I watched the first 5 minutes of Class of '07 that you,
Okay.
you mentioned that last episode, and it's awesome. Oh yeah, it is amazing. The best 5 minutes ever.
And I wanted to like the show based on that because the show, like the premise is kind of weird and wacky, whatever. It's not really normally my thing. And that first episode is okay, but that first 5 minutes, I was like, and I don't know how you would have stuck with that, but if it was so brilliant, like it set it up perfectly, and I just had so high hopes. I was like, here we go, and it was just, but yeah, it's really well done.
It's like they used the funniest part at the very beginning, and from there it can only go downhill. You know.
I mean, not to give it not spoiler alert. It's a show within a show, right? At that first 5 minutes, and then
Yes.
it turns into the actual show after that, after the opening sequence or whatever. And yeah, I mean, but that opening, credit to whoever wrote it. It's really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Try and track it down if you can. So yeah, I have 3 series on my to watch list, actually. Okay, I guess I'm going to add Ted Lasso to that list.
You have to.
Yeah, I guess. I want to watch Diplomat on Netflix with Kerry Russell. I've heard very good things about it. Also, I want to watch Dead Ringers, the TV series on Amazon, adapted from David Cronenberg's movie. And this time it's Rachel Weisz who plays the twins. So they switched from Jeremy Irons to Rachel Weisz. And I've heard very good things about it as well. And I've heard that soon, Sky in the UK, they will start working on a Day of the Jackal TV series. I don't know if you know that book, Frederick Forsyth.
Oh,
From the 70s.
familiar with the movie?
Yes. Yeah, amazing book, one of my favorites. And they made a movie from it with Edward Fox as the Jackal. Great movie as well. Another movie called The Jackal with Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. Sucked ass, so avoid it.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
And it was only vaguely inspired from the book, but yeah, skip it.
Do you know if it will be set when the Day of the Jackal was, or is it like a modern?
That's the one thing I don't know. All I know is that Eddie Redmayne will be the Jackal in this one. So yeah, I have no idea if they will, go back to the 60s. The problem is with that kind of stuff, if you adapt it to now, you have to throw in all the tech aspect of it, and it changes everything, It changes everything about police work and all the rest of it. I would almost prefer that they did it in the 60s, like the original, but then again, the original movie is awesome, but I'm intrigued, let's say.
Sky is interesting because it's kind of the big private broadcaster in the UK. So there's no shortage of money, but I found with their titles, like I find them very hit or miss. I find something like the BBC is actually very consistent. ITV kind of has their niche of like the dark dramas and crime and stuff, and they're very good at that. Channel 4 has, like I think I mentioned one point, is kind of the quirky comedy, and they're very good at that. But Sky kind of is open to anything, which is great, but I find the quality varies greatly. So who knows?
Okay, so yeah, that's it for me for TV. We can switch to movies after this short break. Welcome back. Let's talk about movies now. We can keep the same order as before. We can start with Nick.
I know Mike saw this movie. I saw this like a month ago. It's called Tetris, and that was actually surprisingly really good. Have others seen it?
Nope.
I really liked it.
It was in my queue because it's just of where it's available.
It's on Apple TV Plus, and I really liked it. It's sort of like a Cold War kind of thriller, but it's about Tetris the game, and I knew nothing about it going in, and I found it to be an absolute thrill ride from start to finish. And the guy who played Elton John in Rocket Man, Taron
Egerton.
Yes, Edgerton. He's really, really good in the movie, and I was very surprised by it because I just threw it on one night and I was like, let's see how it is. And I enjoyed it. Did you like it, Mike?
I did. And a little Tetris callback. Toby Jones is in it. He plays. So it's all about the licensing and the rights for who was able to license Tetris outside of Russia and outside of Japan, and who had the North American rights. And that's kind of what the movie's based on, trying to get these. And yeah, I really did. And it's funny because I think Air might come up at some point in this discussion, and
it's coming up on my list.
Yeah, I have no desire to see that. I couldn't care less about a shoe.
Same.
And the thing is with this is I think anybody who was a kid in the 80s or 90s probably played Tetris on something, right? Game Boy or what have you. And so even if you're just mildly interested, this movie is actually really worth it. I'm sure there's liberties have been taken with the story, but it was a lot of fun. And I will say, I thought they did some really fun 8-bit kind of cutscenes almost. Like there's a car chase that turns into an 8-bit, almost like like an NES game, but they don't overdo it. And I think if they had done it, it almost seems a little sparse because they only do it like once or twice. But I actually think it's quite endearing. And again, as anybody who played Tetris, it's probably like, oh my gosh, So I thought that was really well done. But you're right. I thought Egerton was great in it. He played it really well.
I think he's such an underrated actor for someone that seems to not get a lot of praise sometimes outside of like Rocket Man. I think he's actually one of the better actors we got going today. And this is just me personally speaking. I think it would have benefited a scene in a theater than on my TV in the living room. Just there's something about like the car chase sequence and that kind of whodunit and mystery vibe that I think would have lent itself to an actual theater experience. But I feel like that with a lot of movies though. So yeah. Tetris was great. Super Mario Brothers is next. I saw that on Good Friday a while back. Did others see that by chance or no?
I will step up again. I did too.
My son saw it.
Did he like it, Woody?
He did because he's 21, video game nerd, grew up on Mario, like the later Mario stuff. He was like the Easter eggs and stuff like that. He said he really enjoyed it.
Now, Nick, did you see the 3D or did you see the standard?
No, I saw it on the IMAX screen, Mike.
Oh, an IMAX. Okay.
And I had a group of kids in a packed theater, and these group of kids who could not have been more than 6 or 7, they kept pointing out every time Princess Peach was on screen. And one just kept saying, "Where's Yoshi? Where's Wario?" And it's like so funny. Like I couldn't stop laughing because I'm thinking I was probably like that at 6 or 7. And, it got annoying after a while. We were just trying to watch a movie. It was okay. Like Chris Pratt as Mario is like a really stupid decision. Like, and he doesn't even attempt. He's just playing himself essentially. And the story is just there is really no story really. So, what did you think of it, Mike?
I thought it was fine. It's like going to a comedy show when the comedian's okay, but others are laughing, so it's infectious. And so like you were saying with the kids, I mean, we took my son and he brought his friend, and they're very immersed in the Mario world. So for them, the little Easter eggs and, when certain characters were on the screen, they got very excited. And they were, it was fun. It's a fun movie. I don't think it needs to be seen on the big screen. I didn't see it in 3D. I didn't see it in IMAX. I think that a 3D might be an interesting way to go. I know people that have seen it and they said it was good. I would easily recommend it, like when it comes onto a streaming service. I would recommend it at that point. I wouldn't tell people to run out and see it at the theater.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt it. I'm so shocked that like how much money it's making, like across the $1 billion mark. And like I found it very overhyped. And even like friends that are like around my age that saw the movie, a lot of them really liked it. And like, when you feel like you're missing something with a movie, you're just like, am I the only one that really didn't care for this much?
Well, it's the only real big screen animated kids-ish type film that's come out that I can really think of.
That's true.
So that's the main reason why they're doing it is it's because again, parents, even my age, I'm in my mid 50s, remember when Mario came out on the original NES. So it's got that legacy. And then like Mike, your kids are the perfect example of that. They know it as well. So it's something that brings everybody together. That's why it's making all the monies.
Yeah, it's an okay movie. It's nothing like to run out to see, like Drew was saying. And it's funny because the next movie I'm going to talk about is one that Drew mentioned, and it's Air. I saw that in the theater before it went on to Prime Video, which is where it's at now. Ben Affleck's latest movie. I really enjoyed it. I mean, you know exactly what happens. Like, if you just look on the floor, like, you know where Jordan ultimately goes and signs the lucrative deal with. But I mean, I felt like, to me, when I was talking with another friend about it, it seemed like a really much like a Moneyball or Bull Durham, in the sense like you could know nothing about baseball about with those two movies, but still enjoy it because one's essentially sex comedy and one's like statistics, but like don't have that many interest in the sport to actually have a story that entertains you. And I think that like this just seemed like a really interesting premise that I thought was well executed. The performances are great. Chris Tucker, who's never in anything anymore. I wish he was in more stuff. He's really good in it. But of course, Jason Bateman, and there's so many actors in it. It's kind of like a spoiled with riches, so to speak. I don't think it's one that you had to see in a theater, but I know a few of you have seen it. What do you guys think of Air?
So I also saw it in a theater. The main reason we saw it was because my wife said she wanted to see it, which I was like, really? Okay. But I mean, no, she grew up in Chicago. I've lived in Chicago for 30 years. So I was here, during the heyday of the Bulls. But Nick, to your point, I mean, it's not about a shoe. Mike, I know you said that earlier, what do I give a crap about a shoe? It's not, it's more about Nike itself and how Nike was fighting Adidas and Converse to be viewed as not just a running shoe company. And, in their basketball division was nothing. The contract that they're talking about, this lucrative contract that it's $250,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, that was their entire budget to put behind players. Normally, what they would do is break it up between 2 or 3 players. And Converse was known as the basketball shoe, but Adidas was coming up because they even cite, My Adidas by Run DMC. It was the shoe of the street. And so how did this kind of ragtag company with this kind of wacko, not hippie owner, but Phil Knight, how did they actually put this whole thing together? And Matt Damon, when he figures out that Jordan is the guy that they need to talk to, because they didn't have Jordan. They were going to go after like John Stockton. And when they figure that out, and just as a sports person of just understanding how noticing something and paying attention to detail can work, I just thought it was fantastic. And again, didn't need to see it on the big screen, but it was good. The music, the soundtrack is the bomb because it's all 1985 music, 84, 85 music.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of similar to, I think, what you guys were talking about, Tetris. They make it feel like the time. I know no shit, it's a movie. What are they going to try to do? But I thought they nailed everything about it. The whole aesthetic was great.
Yeah, it's exactly like Tetris. Like, it's just a lot of needle drops. Like in Tetris, there's the Pet Shop Boys song Opportunities. And in this one, there's actually quite a few, and I'm drawing a blank on some of the soundtrack choices, but they were like really well-known songs. I enjoyed it. I know like a lot of people are saying, oh, it flopped at the box office, but to put in perspective, in 2023, a movie to make $65 million domestic, even on an $80 million budget, that's really good for a movie that they were just going to throw on Prime Video. So I don't know where people are trying to say that the movie flopped, because in my eyes, I don't think it did. And Viola Davis was also good. She wasn't really in the movie a ton, but I always love seeing her in anything. And I thought she was fantastic as well.
Yeah, Jordan requested her to play his mom. Flat out told Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, she's the actress playing my mom.
Viola's amazing. She's an EGOT winner now. I think she got one this year. She's good in it. I don't know. I just really like the story, and I always recommend it to people. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. Speaking of which, my least favorite movie of the year that I saw in theaters was called Mafia Mama. It's with Toni Collette. Have you guys even heard of the advertisements for it?
I've heard of it, but didn't see it.
So bad. It was like, I love Toni Collette. I'll watch anything she does just because I'm a huge fan of hers. In the movie, she basically plays a woman that is told that she has this like great uncle that died. She has to go to Italy. She doesn't know if it's a scam or not. And basically she gets caught up in the mafia because that's what his line of business was. And she ends up running it. It's so stupid. And it was Bleecker Street, which is like an independent film studio based out of New York. It's not that good. I'm shocked that I even went to go see it. Hard pass on it. It was not worth her time or her talents, quite frankly. I saw Renfield. That was with Nicolas Cage and Aquafina and Nicholas Holt, I think is his name. Yeah, the guy from About a Boy and Mad Max Fury Road and Menu. That was fun. Have people seen that, the vampire comedy?
No, it was one of those, I meant to see it, but then I forgot about it, and then it was out of the theaters. So that led me to believe it wasn't that good.
It didn't do well at the box office, but it's sort of like a weird attempt from Universal to try to reboot like Dracula in some way, to kind of have like a series, it seems. And I thought it was fine. It's from one of the guys who did 21 Jump Street, like those movies with Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. I liked it okay. Like, I thought it was fine. A lot of people that I know that saw it thought the tone was kind of off and it was a little too gory for being gory. But I mean, it's ridiculous. And Nicolas Cage got to fulfill his life dream of playing Dracula. So, and he's bonkers in it. But I love Aquafina. So it was like really the reason why I went to go see it, because she's amazing, I think, in everything. Then my next movie was Beau is Afraid. That was the latest movie from Ari Aster, who did Hereditary with Toni Collette and Midsommar. It's with Joaquin Phoenix. That's a very polarizing movie. The best way I can describe it is, have people seen Schenectady, New York, with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Charlie Kaufman, the screenwriter for Being John Malkovich and adaptation? Like, are people familiar with that movie?
Yes.
It's basically Ari Aster's version of Schenectady, New York, but it's 3 hours.
Woof.
3 full hours. And it's a lot. And this is a perfect example to me of a movie that you have a really talented director, but they're almost given too much money and too much creative freedom and too much that it's a lot to sort of take in. It's interesting as like a conceptual story, even though I found it very hard to follow. And it was quite frankly unpleasant at times, but I was on the edge of my seat for some of it. Like, it started off really strong and then it like really petered off. And then the end, or the last act, was pretty interesting. But
what's the gist of the story? Because the title doesn't tell you anything.
No, it doesn't. And the poster is confusing as hell, where all the things of Joaquin Phoenix. Basically, what the story is that Joaquin Phoenix lives in New York City and he lives in like a crime-ridden place, and he's trying to like go visit his mother for his late father's birthday. And these circumstances happen that delays him to get on the plane. And then basically, not to spoil anything, but something happens and then he's taken care of by another family and they don't know who he is or what he is. And then it's basically his journey to try to see his mother, essentially. But he's like not all there in the head in terms of like just having common sense, really. And like these weird things are happening to him. It's like a hard movie to describe, quite honestly, because it's like a slow burner, but it's a full 3 hours. And yeah, I don't know. Is that on anyone's radar to see?
No. Joaquin Phoenix is kind of yeah, I'm like, I never even saw The Joker. I don't know. There's something about him. The only thing I'll put 3 hours into is RRR.
I personally, I don't like Joaquin Phoenix much either. I just find him very pretentious and very overrated as an actor. Like, he's talented, don't get me wrong, but he's just very off-putting. There's something about him I just don't care for personally. And I know people fight me on that and have fought me on that. But my next movie is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which I saw last week. One of the best movies of the year, if not the best movie that I saw this year. Fantastic, fantastic movie. The Judy Blume novel that was infamously banned and it was controversial. And, you know, it was from the director who directed The Edge of 17. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie. It came out about 7 or 8 years ago. That was one of the best coming of age stories, I think, in the last decade, if not the 21st century. And I really thought that this was a really good movie. It takes place in 1970, but there's nothing that makes you feel like it's like cliche, or it was such a powerful story that really has to do with what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to have religion in your life, or a lack there of religion? All these questions. And I thought it was fantastic. And the lead actress who plays her is really terrific. And Kathy Bates is in it, and Rachel McAdams, who's I always thought was very underrated. She's always really great.
I can't wait to see this. I've heard nothing but good things about it. It's a great book. It's a classic of, YA literature, especially for girls. But apparently one of the things I did hear was like she had been approached many times. Judy Blume had been approached many times about making a film. And I don't know what took so long. I don't know the stories of why it was always turned down. But yeah, this is one of those ones I'm going to wait till it comes in, just because if I went to the theater, I don't think anybody would be going with me. And that might be an awkward sit in the theater by myself. So I really am looking forward to it, though. No offense, Nick. I don't know. I don't know who you saw it with, but
Honesty, though, it's not a girly movie, really. It's really honestly not. It's just a good universal kind of movie in the sense that, like, it's all things that we've dealt with in our lives, like questioning who we are
right.
as people. And I did think that, because that was my fear going to the movie, because I saw it by myself, and I was thinking, like, oh, is this going to be a very feminized portrayal of adolescence and growing up? And I thought the opposite. I thought it was just very engrossing, and it just was terrific. And James L. Brooks produced it, and I think part of the reason why I think that they finally made it into a movie, which they wanted to for 50 years since it was released, was because I think they thought it was unfilmable. Like, in many ways, I think she felt like they couldn't do justice to the book. And I think after seeing The Edge of 17, I think Judy Blume was like, okay, like maybe we could do something here. And I'm so glad. And everyone I've talked to has loved this movie. And I think you'll like it. But the best movie I've seen this year by a lot. And then my last movie, really quick. So this is actually a really funny story. I was keeping for the podcast. They do Employee Appreciation Days this week and next week. They have like multiple employee appreciations at the university I work at. And to cut a long story short, you're allowed to pick two. And one of them is to see a movie at a local movie theater. And you just show your ID, you RSVP to the event. And I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 today with a few of my coworkers because they haven't seen it yet either. And it was surprisingly really good. A lot of animal cruelty. Like, I was not expecting that in Guardians of the Galaxy. But I thought it was good for what it is. I'm not a huge Marvel fan, as you guys know, but I was like, they're paying me to watch a movie at work, and I love it. And next week I'm going to the zoo, by the way. So that's one of the other things. So they have like a really nice local zoo, apparently. So I'm going to check that out.
You're going to do your part about animal cruelty.
Yeah, exactly. A different type of animal cruelty.
Yes.
I know. That's what the running joke was after when I talked to my other librarian friends. We're just like, we're just real shitheads, I guess. Like, we're just going to see a movie with the raccoon being tortured and like nearly killed 800 times, it seems. But yet, we're going to go to the zoo. But did others see Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
Yeah, I did. I saw it. We actually just saw it for Mother's Day because what's better? But I definitely thought it was a rebound for Marvel. So granted, it's James Gunn, which is, running DC now, and he's done all of the other ones. But as far as, for you guys who haven't seen it, it's more kind of the origin story of Rocket Raccoon, is kind of the bumper part, the beginning and part of it. But it's long. It's over 2 hours long, but emotional that I was not expecting. So kind of what Nick was mentioning about the animal, there's animal cruelty in it because it's about how Rocket is made, but there's some other characters in it where they don't necessarily show what happens, but you see the aftermath of it. That is pretty striking.
You're right, Woody. They've really kind of lost their way a little in the last few years. And like, I saw Ant-Man 3 a few months ago, and that was not good at all. I don't even think I stayed for the final closing scene, so I was like, I just want to get out. It was like midnight. But you enjoyed it, Woody, overall?
I would, and I would recommend. That's a big screener for me. Go to the big screen on it. But I also like just the way it was one of the better resolved movies. Mm-hmm. Like the ending of it made sense and had good storylines for all of the characters and why they were going to do what they were going to do. And the villain is a High Evolutionary is the name of the villain in it. And they didn't kill him, which is the best part, because normally all the really good villains, they kill him in these movies. And so they don't stay around that long. So this guy actually has some potential of coming back.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a really nice send-off for it, for the time being at least.
All right, so thanks. Woody, what about you? Movies.
All right. So we already talked about Air and then Guardians 3. So we can knock those off the board. So now I just have 2 that I'm going to chat about. So both of these are online. Well, one's kind of sort of. So the first one is the new Peter Pan and Wendy movie. It's on Disney. So it's of course the classic retelling of Peter Pan going and picking up Wendy and her 2 brothers and bringing them to Neverland, that kind of thing. The reason I'm going to recommend this is the Dr. Hook twist that I feel they put in this one. So Jude Law plays Dr. Hook. Sorry, I'm getting back to my Dr. Hook and the Electric Mayhem stuff. Captain Hook. So he plays Captain Hook, and Smee is played by Jim Gaffigan. And the relationship between Peter Pan and Captain Hook, I don't recall it being the way that they describe it in the movie. As you all know, I don't read books. I'm not a book reader. So it could have been in the original book, but the way that they address that relationship and kind of how it pans out in the end is really good. And kind of one of the running jokes in it is I'm blanking on the name of they call her Indian in the book. Oh, sorry. I've got it now. So kind of the twist to the story, or one of the jokes that they run out through the story, is that Peter Pan causes all this havoc, and then Tiger Lily, who's his Indian friend, I know that's what they called it in the book, so just goes there and cleans everything up for him. And so it's kind of fun that he's not like this super cool, powerful Peter Pan that everybody is scared of, that he actually is just kind of a jerk. And everybody else actually takes care of stuff for him. And so it's just, I really liked it. I would recommend it to kids. I thought it was great. It's on Disney Plus. Watch it at home. It's okay with the kids. Jude Law did a great job. If you're looking to kill some time on a Sunday night, Saturday night, watch it. All right. Last one I've got was super hard for me to watch, but enjoyed to so much. It's called Still, a Michael J. Fox movie that's on Apple TV Plus. It is a documentary talking about Michael J. Fox when he gets diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. To show you guys, it comes across a little bit, but you see my hand? I have a thing called essential tremors, which some people often misdiagnose as Parkinson's, but it's not. It's a different thing, but it's similar. The whole story that they tell, that it's Michael J. Fox telling his own story. So he's doing the voiceover and they're presenting it. And a lot of what they use is they use scenes from his movies cut together to tell the story of his life. So it's either photos from when he was a kid, stuff when he was a kid on some Canadian TV shows. Like they use some of the stuff from Secret to My Success over and over and over in it, just because he's a normal guy. But they cut through showing him dealing with Parkinson's, working with his physical therapist, literally walking down the sidewalk with, I don't know if it's a security guard or something, and they walk by a woman. He falls down, like just flat out falls down. And the woman's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." He goes, No, that's fine. He goes, "I fall for a lot of women." And then they help him up and he keeps walking. But it's not an act. And like in it, he's like broken his hand. He breaks his arm. He shatters his eye socket. And so when you hear him telling the story, you're like, wow, he's really got it together. But then they'll show him doing the voiceover for his book, and the number of takes it takes him to go through some of those things, so that when you hear him telling the story, realize how long it took them to get good cuts of audio to weave it together in this thing. And they tell the story, obviously all the way up to present day, but how he had to deal with, if you ever go back and watch Spin City, you're going to watch Spin City totally differently. You'll pay attention to it. I don't want to ruin it for you, but watch that. And then if you ever were a Spin City person, you'll understand some of the reasons why they did things the way they did and the way the character was the way it was because a lot of people didn't know he had Parkinson's. And so he was trying to hide it. And so it got to the point where my wife actually looked at me and she goes, "Do you want to stop watching this?" And I'm like, no, I said, because I'm like seeing myself potentially in the future to a certain extent. So it was quite a surprise. But to me, Nick, how you were saying that, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret is the best film of the year. If this one doesn't get nominated for a documentary Oscar, I will be surprised. It's that good.
This is on my short list to watch because I've wanted to see it for...
Bump it up the list. All right. That's what I've got for movies, Patrick.
All right. Thank you. It was on my short list as well. I want to check it out. So good thing that you recommend it. I'm going to keep that in mind. All right.
Oh, just so you know, though,
Yep.
too. Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah.
On that note, though, it's funny. It's not depressing. It's not like ha 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 funny, but it's the spirit of it is so positive. And there is humor in the way they weave stuff in. He's funny. He's Michael J. Fox, for crying out loud. That didn't go away.
All right. Okay, so Mike, what do you have for movies?
So usually I don't have much to say.
Sorry, unless you wanted to add to the Michael J. Fox doc. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I'd like to. It
Okay.
comes up on my Apple when I'm watching Ted Lasso. It's always there. So, and the other thing I'd like to watch on Apple TV is the Eugene Levy travel show. I can't remember what it's called at the moment.
Reluctant Traveler.
That's right, The Reluctant Traveler. And I've got that on my list, but we just haven't started that yet. We talked about Tetris. We talked about Super Mario Brothers. And again, I don't normally say much about movies, but in this case, so a couple weeks ago, I thought, well, I need to add something that hopefully nobody else does. So I Googled top movies of 2023 so far. And actually, the number one movie that came up was a movie called Full Time. It's French. I'm not going to say her name because I guarantee I will. Well, okay, I'll try. It's Laure Calamy? I don't know. She was in Call My Agent.
Okay.
She played the PA of the owner of the talent agency. And so you know who, I think if you've seen it, you might recognize, because he goes to start a new agency and she goes with him, or to work at another agency, I should say. She was great in that. And that is the number one show. So I wanted to watch that. I didn't, because I would have had to kind of really focus on it, especially as not terribly fluent in French. And so I would have watched it with subtitles. So the one that I ended up watching, which was pretty high on the list, was, and I should add about Full Time, it was actually released at the end of 2021 for the festival season. Came out in 2022 in France, but came out in North America and I guess the rest of the world this year. That's why I guess it would have qualified as a 2023 movie. The one that I did end up watching, because again, I could kind of do other stuff while I have it on my iPad or something, was a British rom-com called Rye Lane. It's based in South London. It's kind of this, you know, these two people meet. They've both came out of long-term relationships where they've both had their hearts broken. It was quirky and it was fun and it had some interesting scenes. It was good. I would say it's definitely a streamable movie, kind of like you said, Woody, about one of them. It's a Sunday afternoon raining movie. I don't think you'll be disappointed. There's some really, really witty lines. But yeah, it's okay. I liked it. I'm not shouting from the rooftops about it. But the one movie I really did like, and came out actually in 2020, but it just came on to Netflix in Canada, was Croods 2. And again, I'm a parent, so we watch a lot of that. Woody's smiling for those of you who can't see. It just came out on Netflix here in Canada, maybe elsewhere as well. I don't know. But it's the second, obviously, Croods movie. And I didn't care for the first one. I thought it was okay. This one I really liked. And I thought the cast, Nicolas Cage playing Grug, who's kind of the dad who wants to keep the family together. His daughter is Emma Stone, voiced by Emma Stone. And she's, you know, trying to find her way, but she's kind of in love and she's a teenager. And the guy she's in love with is voiced by Ryan Reynolds, who kind of finds these people that he knew as a kid, which ends up being Leslie Mann, and Peter Dinklage does the voices for those two. It's very cute. And I laughed many times during it. And I come to it with like as the adult, right? It's like when you watch Shrek, you get the kids, or like even the Mario, you watch the kids in the theater, the kids that are watching with you, they laugh at the slapstick, they laugh at the puns. But we get those kind of like, here's a joke for the mom and the dads, right? And I found that there were quite a few in there that I really appreciated. I actually can't recommend this enough. I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best animation movies I've seen in a long time, and a lot of fun. And I think it's just one of those ones that if you watch with kids 5 to, whatever, my age, I think you'll appreciate it. It's really fun.
Any other titles on your list?
No, and that's it. I don't have anything even on a want to watch list other than the Michael J. Fox, I think, is on my list. But I'm going to have to really be in the mood for that. Parkinson's hits a little close to home for me without getting into it. And I think that any of those movies that are based on someone who's having difficulty, I really need to be in the right frame of mind for it. And right now, I don't think I am for that. So it will happen because Michael J. Fox is fantastic. Parkinson's awareness is fantastic. It's just I'm not that at that point yet. So
Understandable. All right, thank you.
So, any of you guys amped up to see the new Fast and Furious movie that's coming out?
I've never seen one in my life.
Okay.
I've seen the first one and Fast 5.
That's the best one.
Yeah, it was more of a heist movie, and I was on board for that, and it was good. Yeah, but yeah, I watched only those two, and I'm good.
It's not because I'm like an elitist and a snob or something. Just just nothing has sparked with me that I've through a trailer or an ad or something. And it's almost like, I hate to say it, the Guardians movies, I've never seen any of them. And now I want to see them, but I almost want to see them. So being a teacher, being a librarian in a school, like when I'm off during the summer, I want to be able to kind of go, a movie per night and kind of see them all, I think. And not that I originally planned that. It was just that, people kept telling me it's great. You'll love it. Like the soundtracks and blah, blah, blah. And, and Dave Bautista's in it. And, I'm trying to make Nick smile, but I just can't, I haven't got to that point yet. So I will.
John Cena is in Fast 10. So
Yeah, that's true.
That does not make me want to watch it.
The two movies I'm really looking forward to are on like the opposite ends of the spectrum. Is Asteroid City, the new Wes Anderson movie. I want to see that so badly. And the Indiana Jones movie, The Dial of Destiny. Just because, that's one of my favorite movies growing up was Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, he's like 80, so like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that, but I'm looking forward to seeing those two.
I'm waiting to hear Nick's review about The Machine next episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not following.
Oh,
It's Bert Kreischer. It's a new Bert Kreischer movie.
It looks
okay.
stupid. I probably will not be seeing that. So
Okay.
I hope you won't.
he is like weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't get his humor. I don't understand why he's always shirtless. I don't get it.
I've watched the skit, and it's one of those, like, it's funny. I laughed a couple times. It's like a 20-minute story, right? Like the actual stand-up skit that he tells about it. But the movie just looks like one of these films that's going to turn into like a bad cult classic in 20 years. People will be like, there'll be midnight showings of it. There'll be podcasts about it where people just rip it to shreds and laugh at it while they do it, or laugh with it almost. But oh my goodness, like, no, I don't know. Like, I think that would be a waste of your card, Nick, if you used it.
Oh no, I'm not that crazy. Like, I try not to see what I really don't want to see. But yeah, that doesn't really pique my interest. It could be worse too, Mike. It could be one of those Christian movies that seem to be like everywhere now in the theaters.
You know what? I don't know if production costs have come down or something, but you're right. I thought about that not that long ago, actually, because they are coming almost mainstream, right? And,
Yeah.
they used to be a church or what have you, youth groups and stuff would have like a special screening at a local theater or what have you. And I remember them as kids, but now, like, yeah, they can be in the theater as long as some other non-secular films, for lack of a better term.
Really? Didn't know about that.
Yeah, they played the hell out of it at my local theater, at my AMC. They showed it for like 2 months at least, which is
Played
a long.
the hell out of it, Nick? You said played the hell out of it?
Yeah, they did. Like, they kept it in the theaters.
What kind of music?
I get it. I got you, Woody. I got you.
Same. I got it.
I got it.
Okay.
But
Sorry.
no, like, they kept it in theaters for like 2 months, which post-pandemic, that's a long time to be in a theater, because usually they're only in there for like a few weeks, if that, sometimes. So yeah.
All right. Okay, so my list will probably be short-ish, but I haven't seen a lot of recent movies, so I went back and rewatched a few things and might convince you to, watch something that you might have skipped a few years ago. But first, I gotta talk about 2 trailers. Trailer number 1 is You Could Have a Gun in My Face. You would not convince me to watch that movie, is The Flash.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. the fact that they are trying to hide Ezra Miller from his own movie is really funny because the trailer is almost all Michael Keaton and or Ben Affleck. And yeah, two Ezra Millers is too many. So fuck that movie.
He's a piece of shit person, and they're trying to there's an article in Variety with, I don't know if it was a publicist or someone that was involved with, they're like, we could still sell you this movie essentially even with all his problems. I'm like, fuck that shit.
No.
That guy is a piece of garbage. He's ruining people's lives. He's done terrible things. He doesn't really apologize for any of it. And really, they canceled Batgirl that was like $100 million or however much it costs. Like, this is the type of movie that they should be canceling because, I mean,
Yeah.
fuck that guy. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I refuse to see it too.
All right. So yeah, next trailer, I think it dropped today actually, is Killers of the Flower Moon, the latest Scorsese. That's a fucking trailer. Yeah, go if you haven't seen it, stop what you're doing and come back, and listen to the rest of this, please, and go watch that trailer. It is awesome.
I thought you were telling us to do that. I was going to go do it right now, but I won't do that.
No, yeah.
Okay, see you later.
Wait a few more minutes, please. But it's nice to see that Scorsese still has his fastball. I don't know how old he is now, 80 something, but he still got it. So
He is
that's
80,
awesome.
and he is my favorite director of all time. I rewatched his movies more than anyone. I adore him. I will always watch anything he does, and that looked
He is
fantastic.
awesome. Absolutely. Okay, so movies, actual movies. I saw Guy Ritchie's The Covenant with
Was
Jake
that good?
Gyllenhaal. Yeah, and actually it was definitely not like your typical Guy Ritchie movie. There wasn't any flourishes. Like if you remember, like Lock, Stock, and Snatch, that were visual, like weird,
Yeah.
quirky stuff.
Like when they went between countries and Snatch.
Yes, yeah. That's a good example. And yeah, there is none of that in The Covenant. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal, who basically gets rescued by his interpreter in Afghanistan, and he is able to leave the country, and he decides to go back to Afghanistan and rescue his interpreter. It's quite good. The action scenes are solid. I think the first half is better, but overall, it's still, I recommend it for sure. Yes.
Everyone I talked to has really liked that movie, but it kind of came and went in theaters.
That's true. And also, I rewatched Snatch. We talked about this on the last episode. It's still amazing. There is so much energy in that movie. The soundtrack is great. The opening credits, as I said last time, top notch, and it never lets down from that point. From the opening.
It's a fever dream of a movie.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I almost feel like it's, music geeks as well. It's like Lock, Stock was, I know it's not the debut, but it's like that really good album. And you're like, the next one's going to be awesome. And then it is. And it's even better than the one before it. And that's what Snatch is.
Yeah, I agree.
I've never seen either of those movies.
Oh, no.
Oh,
okay.
they're so good.
Wow.
So building off of your questions that we're going to talk about in a future episode, that's one of those things. I've never seen those.
So feel free to add them to your list if you want. What else? Oh, yeah, I saw Fall. I think it was released last year. Two women climb a 2,000-foot TV tower in the middle of nowhere, and they become stranded at the top. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's like the first trailer looked really bad because the special effects were not quite finished, but the final product is really good. The premise sounds super basic, kind of almost simplistic, but I didn't feel like there was any boring part in the movie, and it's like 1 hour, 45 minutes, more or less. I recommend it. And speaking of so this is a work of fiction, but other documentaries, if you like, about climbing. I don't know if you guys have heard of Free Solo.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes.
It's awesome. If you haven't seen it, it's awesome. And another one I would recommend, also related to real people and real events, is The Dawn Wall.
I've heard
It's fantastic. The Dawn Wall, DAWN Wall. Check it out if you can. All right, so older stuff. So you've probably seen a few of those. Hell or High Water from 2016, written by Taylor Sheridan with Chris Pine and Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges.
Amazing movie.
It's awesome. If you haven't watched it, get on it. In the US, it's on Hulu and it's on Netflix in Canada. The last 5 minutes of that movie, no spoiler, I don't want to give any more details, are amazing, amazing writing, amazing acting. Check it out. I also rewatched Upgrade, Blumhouse production from 2018. It stars, what's his name? Nolan Marshall Green. He was in Prometheus. He looks a little bit like Tom Hardy. He was in another movie called The Invitation, not the horror movie from last year, another movie called The Invitation, which was really good, maybe from 2017 or so. Yeah, Upgrade. Woody, I saw your reaction.
Upgrade is fantastic. My favorite nanobot movie, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know what the budget was, but it wasn't much. But they made so much out of that premise and out of that budget. It's awesome. Another one from 2020, I think. I mentioned it on a previous episode. It's a Danish movie. It's called Riders of Justice with Mads Mikkelsen. I don't know if that movie rings a bell. In the US, it's on Hulu, and you can rent it on Apple TV in Canada. To give a quick summary, Marcus, which is Mads Mikkelsen's character, returns home to care for his daughter when his wife dies in a tragic train accident. However, when a survivor of the wreck surfaces and claims foul play, Marcus suspects his wife was murdered and embarks on a mission to find those responsible. So it's a Danish movie. Mike, sorry, go ahead.
No, I remember you speaking about it, and I watched the trailer, and it was one of those, like, I need to see this. But yeah, it hasn't popped up on a streaming service that I have, so I never have. But I remember thinking, you told us about that a while ago, like,
yes,
a couple episodes back, and I thought it looked really cool.
I think it was on my best of 2022, actually.
That could have been it.
Yeah, that's probably it. What is good about this movie, it is a really good mix of comedy and drama, along with some action as well. Guys, I'm biased for European movies, but this one is awesome. Seriously. And that's it for me. Oh, yeah. Book recommendation. I talked about the TV series The Old Man with Jeff Bridges in an earlier episode. I read the book. The book takes a quite different direction as opposed to the TV series, but the book is really good. I forgot the name of the author, but check it out if you like action-y, spy-ish books. It's good. And I have an Instagram recommendation for you guys. He was on Twitter before, but I think he's left Twitter. The username is art, but make it sports in one word. That guy, and there is no AI involved, apparently. The guy takes a screenshot from a sports broadcast and he matches it with an art, a piece of artwork. And it's one of my favorite Instagram follows. It is awesome.
I just saw this pop up today.
Oh, there you go.
Somebody else this popped up in my recommendations today. That's really funny.
I have just followed it.
Me too.
It's fantastic.
Oh, I love the Aaron Judge sideways looking one from where Aaron Judge was looking to the side the other day. Yes. And he puts the Van Gogh self-portrait. Yeah. That's brilliant.
And actually the one with, what's his name? The fist fight between Bautista and the Rangers, Texas Rangers, I think, player from a few years ago.
Yeah, it was Odor, I believe.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Okay, and it is matched with a sculpture from Keith Haring. 2 boxers, I think. And that sculpture is in Berlin. I remember walking next to it. When I saw that, it was like, holy shit. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so yeah.
So hold on before you move on, in case anybody didn't catch it. Art, but make it sports.
Yes.
So ARTBUT, make it sports. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm following it right now.
Awesome. Okay, so what about you guys? Do you have any YouTube recommendations or any other stuff that is worth checking out? Maybe a website in general, or?
I mean, I said earlier that the Downey Live, again, that's for my travel fix.
Yes.
And again, I just came across it a while ago somehow. We had watched some other, again, it's not always train based. I think he is a bit of a train enthusiast, but and I'm assuming that these episodes, the ones I just watched, were produced for this British Columbian television station as well. But even if they're not, like the people who edit it and everything, the sound is fantastic, the visuals are amazing. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my YouTube recommendation as well.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'm late to the game, but I will give you the Hot Ones on YouTube. Are you guys familiar with Hot Ones?
I love the Hot Ones.
Yeah, because that's actually where I heard Jake Gyllenhaal talking about the Covenant was on that. And then I just had heard of the show, but I went down a wormhole of those things. Are you familiar with it, Patrick?
No, I'm not. What is it?
So it's an interview show where the host has a star on, and these have been on for quite a while, like several years. And they have 10 wings that get chicken wings, that get progressively hotter while he interviews them. And it's hilarious because by the time you get about to the fifth one is where the reality comes out of the person. Like any pretense or whatever that they had on them, it is out the window. And there's certain people like Jenna Ortega from Wednesday. She plows through them like without a problem. But then you'll have people like Tom Holland who starts crying. It's great.
Well, my favorite is Gordon Ramsay because you would think as a chef, he should be able to get through them. Whether he enjoys them or not is different. But he hits, like you said with Tom Holland, he hits 5, 6. He is like cursing up. I mean, obviously it's Gordon Ramsay, but he is struggling. And like you said, Noel Gallagher from Oasis and Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds is on it. He plows through them, no problem. There's no rhyme or reason. But I have to tell you something really funny about it is when I started watching it, I can't remember who it was, but there was one of the guests was a Canadian, and it might have been Seth Rogen or something, and I can't remember. But they said, he goes, "Oh, I like this one," and he says, "Oh, it's Canadian." Like, because every season they have 10 new sauces. Now, 3 or 4 of them are kind of mainstays where they're always there. Like, there's one that's I think 7 or 8. The 7 or 8th hottest one's called the bomb, and it never changes. But I think 5 or 6 of the sauces change with every season. And he's like, "Oh, that's a Canadian one." And I thought I like hot sauces. And I said, I don't like them when they're like a challenge. I just like flavor. And he said, "Oh, it's Canadian." And I thought, "Oh, it sounds good." It was fruity or whatever. And it turned out that it was actually made in my hometown of Oshawa. So
nice.
I've since actually started buying some of their sauces and they're really good. But yeah, it's if you like hot sauces as well, it's kind of an interesting place to learn some.
Well, and they sell them all as a box kit. So that's why some don't change.
Okay.
It's a fun show, the ones I've seen.
Has it ever happened that a guest could not make it to 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
DJ Khalid, I don't think made it, if I remember correctly. He's one of the early ones and he doesn't make it. And it's funny because they all bring in their own methods that they're going to combat it with. And I remember Chris Jericho, the wrestler, came in and he brought like one of those like 4-liter things of milk and he's spitting every 7 seconds. He's just like into the garbage can trying to get it out. But yeah, it's really well. Sean, that's the host name, right? Sean. And at this point, they all know what they're about to get into. But I think you still get the odd guest who thinks it must be fake, right? Or it must be like worked somehow. Will Ferrell's been on it twice, I think. And he's really good on it too. And it's funny because they're still trying to answer the questions, but you see that there's some of them are starting to really struggle.
Wow. Okay. Is it on YouTube or?
Yeah, it's YouTube show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because Sean Evans is actually from the Chicagoland area, so how I got tuned into it was actually they interviewed him on the sports radio station here.
Okay.
And they were talking about it, and then I was like, "Oh, I should check this thing out." And then, of course, it's like one of the hugest online things ever.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a good recommendation. I heard about it, and I think I might have seen the episode with Bill Burr from a few years ago, maybe. So, okay. Awesome. Any last words, guys?
I forgot about Across the Spider-Verse. I saw the trailer for it when I went to see Mario Brothers. It looks awesome. The last one was awesome. I'm looking forward to that. I will also say there's a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie coming out, and it looks atrocious. I would love to.
Okay,
Nick
good.
is nodding.
I'm glad you said
Nick
that.
is nodding in agreement. It looks awful.
I loved it as a kid so much. Like, I can't tell you guys how much I love those cartoons, but God bless their hearts, they've never really made a good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie because Chris Evans did one in the late 2000s and it was terrible. And yeah, I love those dudes so much, but yeah, they look terrible.
That's a bridge too far. All right. So, guys, where can we reach you online, Nick?
So you could follow me at Nick D. Bamback on Twitter, and you could also follow my podcast, which is Rock in Retrospect, which Patrick and Mike Drew have been guests on. Hopefully, we'll produce some new episodes. It's been a little bit of a hiatus just in terms of just taking a few weeks off, but hopefully get back into the swing of things. I'm also on Instagram as well for the podcast. And really, like, maybe this is like news for you guys. I don't know if you guys noticed, I also write a lot too, and I'm trying to get back into it. So I'm actually writing an article for my blog site, which is the Audiovisual Repository, where I write mainly about music and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I have a series that I'm going to restart that I started last year, like 10 Reasons Why Someone Should Be in the Rock Hall. And it's definitely an interesting choice of who I'm like currently researching and writing about, but that should hopefully be out by the end of the month.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Woody, what about you?
You can follow me. The best place to follow me is on Instagram at The Wooden Chef. So I've got a couple dinners coming up that I'm going to be cooking for. If you want to see a guy who cooks out of his kitchen is a pretentious little dork making fancy food, check me out there.
Mike, what about you?
You can follow me on Twitter if you're still there. I don't post anything at Mr. D's Class, MRDSCLASS, but the best place to follow me is probably Instagram. Pickies, PICIES with filters.
Thank you, Mike. And well, if you want to drop us a line, we are on Twitter, EETFpod. Email is eetfpodcast@gmail.com and Instagram as well, EETFpod. Thank you guys for listening. We will catch you on the next one. Thanks.